Hey guys, Youngblood with you for the 52nd episode of the Inbox, starting off with a question from Runaway Duck 14 asking if there's going to be any planet careers available in the game. I don't think we're going to see that initially. I think as we kind of start building up, we'll get there. The game's interesting. We started out with the goal of really being the best damn space sim ever, and that kind of has developed into the best damn everything simulator being their goal. So with that, I think there are going to be careers available on planetside. So whether that be working in a factory or being a farmer or kind of being an entrepreneur and having a shop. Some of those mechanics are already going to be kind of built out. We have the Endeavor with the farming pods. We have the Merchant Man that has the mobile shop. The not the freelancer, the Caterpillar can kind of do the same thing. We have some of the mechanics in place that are going to give you the option to play how you want, so I think you're going to have that available to you. So if you want to settle down on some planet and just kind of live there and not even go up into space, you can probably do that, but you're probably going to be reliant on other players and NPCs to help you out with things. Like, you're not going to be able to just go, like, if you want to stay on the planet, if you want to just go fly somewhere, pick up what you need and come back to the planet, and you're just operating out of your home base there, you probably have that option. Now, I'm not expecting this to be available initially. It's probably going to be one of those things that continues to be added. Now, at live release, we probably will have this, but, alpha, beta, we don't really know when you're going to start seeing those types of things really be available to you. Dragon Templar 4 says, "Hey Youngblood, since camp ships are quite expensive, which ones are we most likely to see in the verse to least likely?" I think, frankly, it's just going to go by cost to what you can't even buy. So, Polaris is the smallest capital ship. So with the Polaris being 750, I think that's the one you're probably going to see the most, especially considering it's not only marketed to the military, which you're going to see using it, but also to local militias, which you're going to see using it, as well as players. So Polaris is probably going to be the most common. Idris is going to be pretty common as well. There's a lot of them that were purchased by players. It's going to be a pretty common ship used by the military. And then Javelin, again, owned by players, but in much fewer numbers, so you'll probably see some of those. And then, Bengal is going to be a pretty rare sight. It's a big ship. Players can't buy it. The military probably doesn't even have that many of them. And the most least likely ship that you're going to see is going to be the Dreadnought, the Retribution class Dreadnought, because I believe there's only one of them that's created, and that's probably for the Squadron 42 campaign. So that's probably your order. You could layer in some of the alien ships as well, like the King ship, for example, is going to be pretty rare, but in the campaign, it's going to be a lot more common than just in the persistent universe. Late Flux 07 says, "Any news on the Freelancer MAX rework? I want to see how it compares to the newer version of the base." I'm right there with you. You guys probably know by now I'm a huge fan of the Freelancer MAX. I think it's a really sweet spot for protecting your cargo, hauling long distances, and just kind of being a cool ship that's easy to solo. With that in mind, I haven't seen anything on the roadmap. We get the 3.0 to 4.0 roadmap, and there was a lot of things that were listed there, like mining, reclaiming, salvage. Those types of things are on the roadmap, and they list out what ships are going to be coming out, and the Freelancer variants weren't listed. Neither were the 300 variants. So I'm kind of holding out some hope that maybe it sneaks into the maybe 3.0. Maybe 3.1. With cargo coming, I think this is going to be one of the cooler cargo ships to actually have and use. But again, it's hard to really say since it wasn't on the roadmap, and they haven't mentioned it specifically. The Dark Lord of the Sith says, "Great video. You're my go-to source for everything Star Citizen." Awesome. Glad to hear it. He has a Warden Saber, Aurora LN, and a Starter Mustang Alpha. Combat I have covered with the Warden and Saber. The LN I plan on keeping for when I have to wait for insurance replacement ship. No plans for keeping the Mustang Alpha. Was wondering what I should upgrade it to. Once I have a multi-purpose ship on the smaller side, any suggestions? Depends on what you mean by smaller side. If you mean like this as small as possible, then I would probably point you towards like the Avenger. But again, that leans combat a little bit. If you're willing to spend a little bit more, then I'd probably point you towards the either the Cutlass Black, which after the new rework images we've got looks awesome, or the Freelancer. I think the Freelancer is probably your best bet there. It's going to haul a lot of cargo, can do some exploration, and it'll fill a spot that you currently have a void in a couple different areas. Emilio2798 says, "Do you have any information about ship's external hull paint customizations?" I don't know if you saw the anniversary live stream, but they went through, and when they were talking about the variants like the Wildfire and the Comet and the Valiant, this is kind of the first iteration of really truly adding in some of that customization. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you the ability to really, like on certain parts of your ship, layer different textures and colors. And then with that, you're going to be able to share that that too. So for example, in an organization, you can almost have like a hex code, and you can say, I want to share this to everybody and everybody in my organization, and they can choose whether to apply it to their ships or not. But what that then does is it automatically applies a scheme to all the ships in your fleet if they so choose, and it kind of translates between different ships. So, maybe it's like nose, aft, belly, accent 1, accent 2, accent 3. You can share that, and then regardless of what ship it's actually going to be, it's going to actually apply to that. So there's some cool things that are coming. It was really neat actually seeing the video on that. So if you haven't seen the live stream yet on the whole customization or the paint schemes, I would definitely check it out because it's worth looking at. Fire Breather Gaming says, hey man, I was wondering what your opinion is on the Warden as an exploration ship. I will only be playing with one friend, and I figured that it would be okay because it has sleeping quarters and good weapons for defense. Also, do you do military stuff in your organization? I think the Warden is going to be an okay exploration ship depending on how you actually customize it. If you just take it out solo, you're not necessarily going to have the scanners and the avionics and everything that are going to really help you in trying to accomplish that. But if you were to kind of take it closer to like the Sentinel line, where you put upgraded computers in the bay in the middle, and you actually, instead of your turret, you put like a scanner or something up there, there's probably some options that you have available to you that could make it more efficient as an exploration ship. Right now, I think you'd be able to go a long distance, and you do have the sleeping quarters, so I think between those, it's got some of the basics down for exploration, but I don't see anything as far as specifics or modules on the ship that are actually making it a good explorer. You can go a long way, but if you can't find what you're looking for when you go there, you're not doing a whole lot of good. So it all comes down to what you do to upgrade the ship and what options are even available to upgrade the ship, and that'll kind of determine it. So in theory, yes, I think it could be a good exploration ship, but just stock, I would say no. And then as far as military stuff in our organization, we do everything that falls into the good side of the law. So we're not doing piracy, we're not doing, just marauding, but, we're going to do bounty hunting, we're going to do, protecting our ships. We may go hunting Vanguard, like those types of things, like escort missions. There's going to be military stuff. There's kind of a military wing in the organization, but we're not necessarily going out looking for a fight either, unless it's against some pirates that are ruining a sector and we're trying to just restore order to space or something like that. But it's so early, we don't really know. And our last two questions today are our patron questions. Starting off with Death Adder's question. It says, has there been any mention of a small ship that will be dedicated to salvaging, similar to the Prospector is for mining? I understand that there's going to be modules and variants available for existing ships. However, I'm interested in something more purpose-built. I think you and a lot of people are, and I think we're probably going to see something. Like you mentioned with like variants and modules, we know the Cutlass, based on like the commercial and some of the lore and things that have actually been written by the developers, the Cutlass should have some salvaging ability. But right now, when you're looking at just purpose-built, you've got nothing up to the Reclaimer. So it's like if you want to get really into a purpose-built ship with the idea of doing salvage, you've got a $350 ship, and that's it. So I think we're probably going to see something a little more purpose-built. I haven't seen anything mentioned. We look at the whiteboard and what all the different options are there, and I think we know what a lot of those ships are going to be, and nothing there is really a salvage ship or a reclamation ship. So I think today we're kind of limited to, forcing modules onto ships like a Cutlass, or potentially using something that's not necessarily built for that and kind of retrofitting it, something like a Crucible. But that's at the same price range as a Reclaimer. So if you really want salvage, you'd almost just be better off getting the Reclaimer anyway. So I haven't heard anything on the roadmap, but I'd have a hard time believing there's not something coming at some point. And the last question is from Drew Cipher. It says, do you think that they'll add Flak-style guns to Star Citizen? Example of guns with which fire around or energy projectile which explodes near a ship. What ships do you think would benefit the most from these guns other than capital ships? What size or type of ship would you limit these types of weapons to? Or would you say that throwing proximity rounds into an Avenger's main gun, that close is good enough, would be all right? Okay, so with this question, I think we're going to see Flak-style guns at some point. And the reason I say that fairly confidently is because the APOC and Reese, the Pyro Burst shotgun that we have right now is almost a Flak round. You shoot out all these little projectiles and they kind of explode when they get close to the enemy ship. So I think that sort of mechanic is in place, so I think we're probably going to see it. Now, as far as what ships are going to benefit from it, I mean, capital ships is kind of the obvious one there, but you said not to go through that one. So I'll take it to other ships, like the Retaliator would be a really good option. The Retaliator is hauling ass, trying to deliver its payload. It has to deal with fighters. It's got a lot of turrets on it. So if it's able to kind of provide a bubble of deterrency, then I think you're in a good situation. I also think that any ship that's kind of like, when I start thinking about like fleet protection or an escort ship, you kind of got your core, which is going to be your turret heavy ships that stays close to your transporters while your fighters are doing things on the kind of the outer bubble. If your interior ships that have a lot of turrets on it that can actually provide protection, they can almost help to use the Flak to keep fighters away from what you're trying to protect in that convoy. So that's not a specific type of ship, but that's more of a role. So yeah, I think we're going to see it. I think there's some ships that could benefit from it, and I wouldn't be surprised. As far as what I would limit it to, I don't think I'd really put any limit on it. If a Avenger wanted to use some sort of Flak cannon on the nose, I'd say that's fine. It's probably not the most effective option on a fighter that's going nose to target. But I don't think you're going to see Flak rounds that you just put into a normal gun. I think it has to be a dedicated Flak weapon, would be my guess. So that's going to be it for this episode. I appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned for a whole lot more content coming soon, and have a wonderful day. Take care.